Hello everyone, DJ Rees here with some seriously crazy revenge stories. Today a man gets his Super Bowl ticket sneakily stolen from him and plots one of the greatest revenge stories I've ever seen. With the NFL playoffs back on, I thought you all might enjoy this football-related revenge story. I'll call myself Bob for anonymity. I'm a huge 49ers fan, the rabid all-day tailgate in the parking lot type. A few years ago, we made it back to the Super Bowl. I was working at a consulting firm with a handful of accounts I would interact with directly. One client in particular knew how big of a Niners fan I was. I was the day-to-day lead on his account. He really liked working with me and we became friends, often grabbing drinks or dinner after our meetings. He had access to a pair of extra company seats to the game, and to say thanks, he wanted to give them to me as a gift. He passed the tickets over to the partner on that account, who I will refer to as Rick, to be given to me as a surprise. The game came and went. We lost, and it sucked. The next time we met, we went to get drinks afterward, and he mentioned, "Hey, by the way, why didn't you go to the game? I heard someone else was in your seats." I asked, "What game?" He said, "The Super Bowl." Confused, I answered, "I didn't have seats to the Super Bowl." He told me that he gave Rick a pair of his company tickets for me as a gift so I could attend. I had zero idea what he was talking about. He looked shocked and told me to quietly ask around about it and get back to him. When I was back in the office the next week, I found out through one of the secretaries that Rick had given a pair of Super Bowl tickets to another one of his clients as a gift from our company. I might have let this sort of thing go to keep the peace under different circumstances, but these were seats on the 30-yard line to see the freaking 49ers play in the Super Bowl. I was pissed. I considered confronting Rick myself, but realized it was actually the client who had noticed I wasn't there in the first place. So if I let him handle it, there would be no blowback on me. So I texted him, "Hey, I just wanted to thank you so much for thinking of me with those seats. It appears that they were given to another one of our firm's clients." He texted back right away, in all caps, "Are you kidding me?" And then said, "Pretend I never told you, let me handle it." He followed up with me about formulating a plan. A few days later, we were asked to come down for a meeting in their office. The client requested the partner be present, not entirely unusual. So Rick and I hopped a flight the next week and headed over to their office. Little did Rick know my client had orchestrated a wonderfully awkward little show to catch him red-handed. When we entered the conference room, it was all the usual suspects along with a woman in her 30s we didn't recognize. My client immediately introduces the lady. "Rick, this is Stephanie, vice president of the company. She wanted to sit in on this meeting. Hey, Bob, you guys must already know her from the Super Bowl, right?" She then responds as she goes to shake my hand. "Oh, I don't think so. Did we meet there? I'm sorry if I forgot." The client responds, "Geez, Stephanie, how much did you have to drink? They were sitting right next to you." The client looks at me and I say, "Sorry, I wasn't there. Are you thinking of someone else?" At this point, Rick is looking visibly uncomfortable, probably trying to come up with an excuse. He starts in with an, when Stephanie cuts him off. "No, there were other people in those seats. By the way, I was wondering why we gave company seats to those guys. Is there a project we're working on with them that I don't know about?" Obviously not. They were in completely different industries. It would be like Coca-Cola partnering with John Deere. Rick lets out another, and the client immediately speaks over him and asked, "Rick, I gave you those tickets for Bob though, didn't I?" At this point, Rick is turning bright red. He responds, well, he wasn't able to make it, so he must have given the seats away to someone else," and turns to me looking for me to cover for him. The client smirks at me. I responded, "What are you talking about? Client, you gave me tickets to the Super Bowl?" The client suddenly raises his voice. "Rick, those tickets were a personal thank you gift from me to Bob. Did you give them away to someone else? Was it another client?" Rick bursts out saying, Maybe something got mixed up in the office." The client went quiet for what probably seemed like an eternity to Rick. He then looked down, grabbed his portfolio and iPad, put them into his briefcase and said, "I think this meeting is over. Bob, it seems as if I owe you a thank you gift. Let's go to lunch. Stephanie, you're welcome to join. Rick, I need to evaluate our relationship. Please go back home and expect to hear from us next week." Rick asks if he could join, presumably to do damage control, and Stephanie sternly tells him, "I don't think that's a good idea," and then asks the front desk to see Rick out the door. As soon as he is in the elevator, we all break out laughing hysterically. Stephanie wasn't really a vice president, just an employee at the company who the client had drafted in order to help with his pre-planned meeting skit. But she did end up coming to lunch with us and was a fellow Niners fan and total blast to hang out with. On our way to the restaurant, I got a desperate text from Rick saying I needed to cover for the firm and that we could discuss things when I got back. I replied, "Yes, we need to talk, but I'll see what I can do." The client told me to wait a couple hours and then respond to him. He wanted me to tell him that the client expects invoices for the resale value of the Super Bowl tickets. Resale is way above face value, so it was over $10,000, as well as our lunch. He picked a pricey spot and made a big show of overspending, and that he expected them to be paid immediately. He also told him to give me a direct apology and a written apology to his company for what he considered theft. And finally, he said that he will only interact with me or another one of our firm's partners, never Rick. This whole thing caused a stir with the other partners, and I actually came off looking great because it appeared that I had made a good faith effort to save the client for the firm despite being the victim in this situation. The client would transfer to another partner, which meant Rick lost his profit share on any work with them. Oh, and the other partners in the firm made Rick pay the invoices back out of his salary. In retrospect, I really have no idea what the hell the guy was thinking. Did he seriously believe the client wouldn't notice me not thanking him for the Super Bowl tickets? Anyway, the well was kind of poisoned for me there long term because Rick didn't go anywhere. I left the firm a few months later for a much better position. The client ultimately terminated their relationship with that firm a year later, and he actually works with a good friend of mine at a competing firm now. I'm still pissed that I missed out on the Super Bowl even though we lost. Wow, that client really knows how to throw some shade. I bet Rick was sweating bullets during that meeting. It's always satisfying to see someone get what's coming to them, especially when they try to pull a fast one on you. And getting to go to lunch with the client and receive a thank you gift? Talk about a win-win situation. I just hope they didn't go to a seafood restaurant, because Rick would have been swimming with the fishes after that meeting. So I'm living in Japan now, and here people ride bicycles a lot. You can't leave your bike anywhere, and you have to pay for parking. $1 to $2 per day. There are very few free parking areas for bicycles. Most people leave their bikes at the same place, so they pay monthly because it's cheaper and you have your own space. This started a couple of weeks ago. Someone in my building started having a guest who decided to steal my bicycle parking space whenever they came to visit. Sometimes they stayed the whole night, so I had to go to the station, pay $1, and come all the way home walking, which meant I would need to walk to the station the next day. This means I had to get up earlier and walk like 20 minutes to the station while carrying my heavy bag. All the bicycle spaces have a number, which means they are reserved for someone. Mine is 105, but this a-hole decided to take mine whenever they came to visit. The second time this happened, I told the building manager, but they didn't do anything. The third time I saw the bicycle there, it was the same red expensive bicycle, I left a note in Japanese saying, "Please don't leave your bicycle here. This is my space, and I am using it every day." I found a response taped to my parking space, and it had a couple of bad words in Japanese at the end. Basically, he was not only stealing my space, but making fun of me by insulting me. Okay, buddy, I probably wouldn't have done anything about it if he hadn't written those words. This triggered me and got the worst of me. This person did it again a couple of times, so I knew this would continue. I was thinking about buying another bicycle, a better, more expensive one I could use to go on cycling trips, so a good chain and lock was needed anyway. I bought one of the thickest locks they had at the store and decided to try its efficiency. I locked his bicycle the next time I saw it there. It hasn't moved for the last 7 days. There were 2 notes. The first one was a very aggressive one with more bad words and threats about going to the police, which I don't care. Let's do that, buddy. The second note was days later, and it was an apology. They begged for me to unlock the bike because they tried to break it, but they couldn't. I guess he has learned his lesson. I'm pretty sure he won't do it again, but I just want to enjoy this feeling of victory a couple of days more. I will free it in 2 or 3 days, I guess. Damn, it's unfortunate that the situation had to escalate to this point, but I can understand the frustration of having someone repeatedly take your parking space without permission and even insult you when confronted. While locking the offender's bike may not have been the most mature solution, it seems to have worked in this case, and hopefully, the person has learned their lesson and won't do it again. However, I would also advise caution in case the person retaliates in some way. Now that I think about it, though, I really don't think there was any other solution. The note didn't work, and the cops did nothing, so I feel like this was the only way to get this entitled moron to get out of your spot. This happened about 16 years ago. My friend, let's call her Maria, had been dating a guy named Oscar for 2.5 years or so when she found out through the grapevine, if you live in a small town you'll understand, that Oscar had betrayed her. He'd been to a party, got a girl drunk and slept with her. News of his actions had spread as gossip does. The worst part of it was that it seemed that it wasn't the first time that it had happened by a long shot. Well, Maria heard this and plotted revenge. She invited him to her flat for a special afternoon of fun with her and her friend Vanessa. Oscar could not resist the temptation, so he went. Picture this scene. He goes into the building where she lives and gets into the lift to go up to the 10th floor to get to her apartment. He rings the bell and he can hear music playing from behind the door. She opens the door and he walks in and sees that both his girlfriend Maria and her friend Vanessa are there, each wearing a sexy silk negligee. Maria is holding a blindfold and tells him to wear it. He agrees, and she puts it on him and tells him to strip naked. While he was busy, Vanessa put her clothes back on, walked out of the apartment, leaving a doorstop to keep the door open, and called the lift. That's an elevator to you Americans. She then walked back in, grabbed Oscar's clothes, and threw them out the window into the car park below. She then left the apartment and went down the stairs, ringing doorbells as she descended. Maria had been leading Oscar around the apartment, disorienting him, and then led him out of the apartment, closed the door behind her, and got in the lift alone. She was calling him an unfaithful a-hole before the lift doors closed. Now he was in the hallway naked, with his clothes thrown all over the car park. Oscar ripped off the blindfold and must have realized how screwed he was, as he had to walk down 10 flights of stairs buck naked while passing the laughing neighbors all the way down. He collected his clothes and Maria never saw him again. Thanks for watching till the end, and don't forget to subscribe and like for more of these ridiculous stories. Love you all, and stay safe out there in that crazy world. Much love. Peace.